Hi, my name is Cel, and I'm your host for the SweatNet Be Amazing podcast, where we share stories of amazing women who live in our communities. My hope is that you will feel encouraged and inspired after listening to each episode. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Be Amazing podcast right here on SweatNet. I'm your host, Cel, and I'm so excited you decided to join me today for another inspiring conversation. This week, it's with my sister, Juliana Ditmyer. She is an actor, director, choreographer turned sales professional. She is passionate about coaching conversations and inspiring sales talent. Her expertise is building rockstar sales development teams within the SaaS industry. Juliana now resides in St. Petersburg, Florida with her husband Joe and their hilarious cat Tig. But more than anything, I'm excited because you all are going to get an inside scoop on my sister and I growing up. We shared a room, we shared a passion for dance and for theater, and now we're sharing an experience that's really unique because we're both in sales and we share about that. So I cannot wait for you to listen to this incredible conversation with my sister, Juliana. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Be Amazing podcast. I am so happy today. Like, if I could get up and dance right now, I would, because my sister's here. My sister, Juliana. Welcome to the show, Juliana.
What up? What up?
We've talked about this, and I don't even know where to start. Like,
I know.
I was like, when we were talking about questions, I'm like, where? Like,
Where
there's
do you
so
even
much.
begin?
Right,
I
where
know.
do we begin?
I know.
But I think the first thing we begin with is I need you to tell them a little bit about yourself, because you are multifaceted, multi-talented. Like, it's true. So give us a little
The
411.
pot calling the kettle black. I think that's what that saying means.
Yes.
Well, I'm gonna put my glasses on. My name is Juliana Ditmyer. I am your youngest sibling. You might call me your little sister, but I think we both know that you're shorter than I am.
Such a true statement.
So that term is debatable. I am a former theater actor, director, choreographer, turned sales professional. I am, I am married to a lovely guy named Joe. We have a 20-pound cat named Tig, who we got during the pandemic. Survived kitten phase, and now he's amazing. We live in St. Petersburg, Florida, about approximately 8 minutes from the beach.
Which is so wrong.
I know. Well, it is, and yet it's so right, because I feel like I truly feel like St. Pete is the coolest town in America. IMO, as the teen texting kids are saying these days. And if you don't know what that means, it means in my opinion.
I've not heard that one yet, and I thought I was
IMO.
cool.
IMO. I had to Google it. This happens to me all day long. This happens to me all day long because I work with 20-somethings, and they'll say things like "no cap," and I'm like, "Sure." And then I go to Google, and I'm like, "What does no cap mean?"
This reminds me. Have you seen the show Younger?
Oh God, yes, I love it.
Yes, and that's what it reminds me of. Like when
Yes.
she was in social media and they'd say something, and she's like, "What does that mean? I have to Google it."
Yes, I do that all day. I have a running list for one of my sales team members because he uses more urban slang than I've ever heard in a group of people, and he uses it all. And so I have a running list. Every time he says something, I write it on a whiteboard and then I Google it.
Oh my gosh, you're gonna have to send me that list.
Yeah, it's really funny. It's pretty funny. Yeah. But yeah, I mean that's pretty much me these days in a nutshell. Greatest joy of my life is being your sister.
That's hilarious. Well, we have so much fun together now because like we growing up, man, we were really tight in a lot of ways.
Mhm.
partially because we lived in a room together most of yeah, I mean, most of our growing up years. I mean, we
It
lived
was
in
really fun.
yeah. Well, there's conversation there because even though Juliana's my younger sister, there were moments that you wondered who ran it. There were times that I can tell this story. There were times when I would want to borrow something.
Okay, okay, but let's be fair.
About that. I want to borrow something and I'd have to sign it out on a piece of paper. I'd have to write my
Okay,
name.
but that is only because said items would disappear into the abyss, never to be found again until I had grown out of them. So, yes, you are correct. I did make her sign my clothing out, but I had good reason.
Right. Or has anybody else out there done that? I mean, like, I think there's just unique things that happen with siblings and when you're really close. And Julie and I, we were super close growing up. And the other part of that was that we always were dressed the same, not because we chose to dress the same.
Well, dear Priscilla, if you're listening,
Because you know she's listening. Mom,
I know
we know you're
she
listening.
she's listening and she's gonna give us notes.
Right.
Um, yeah, I there are multiple photos of us wearing this the same dress as mom, even like
Right.
all three of us in the same. And I'm not talking about like when we were like 2 and 4.
No.
No, when we were like teenagers, we were pre-teen.
Let's just say two words. Laura Ashley.
Laura Ashley. I was obsessed. I was obsessed with
Can we talk
them.
about pantaloons?
Oh my God, I wore them. I wore them not as a costume.
Oh, you wore
Not as
them.
a costume.
We should have known then that that was even a hint of that you were
No,
going to be an
this
actor. Like,
this is gonna go off topic, but this just reminded me of a really funny story. When I was in the 5th grade, this was the year that I went to public school, and we did a book report, and I chose Little House on the Prairie, and they told us to dress like the person, you know, from the story that we were reading. And so I wore the full outfit with the pantaloons. And it was in that moment that I decided this is really great attire. And I continued to braid my hair in pigtails and wear pantaloons with every dress that I owned. And not to mention, there was a phase where I went through mom, I had mom literally take fabric and make giant bows to sew on the back of all my dresses so that I could dress like Nellie Olson.
best. Like we grew up Little House on the Prairie, Haley Mills, and any Disney movie, musicals. Like our growing up years, it was all of those things, and I think that was part of the fun. I think we've had a lot of unique moments as sisters, and we've had challenges. Definitely challenges growing up. I think all family dynamics are different. We all have moments that challenge us and we grow. But uh, as far as what the experiences and my experience with you as my sister and how we grew up, like I have such fond memories with you and continuing on, like even now as adults, like I think we have reconnected and really defined our relationship as sisters, and I'm so grateful for that because distance sometimes can create distance, and we have really, really um, been purposeful about staying connected and talking and sharing, and whether it's challenges that are happening, or excitement of things that are happening. Like it's always so fun to talk to you about all that. And you know, I think going back even a little bit back to our childhood years, our dancing years, there were years that we were spent at the dance studio together.
Mhm.
I mean, years, like, and even a point at which we were homeschooled and all we did was dance and do our best with studies. But uh, that was just some really amazing experiences, and I'll never forget them, and I'll always treasure them. Uh,
Yeah, I was telling someone the other day about you because I often brag about my amazing sister that makes me feel tired by just watching everything that she does. But no, really, more than that, I feel, I'm so inspired by you, and I always have been, and I think that's the thing, and it's common, I think, with younger sisters, but I started dancing because you started dancing, and I
I didn't know
wanted
that.
to.
I
Yeah,
didn't really know that.
yeah, I
You
was.
never. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I was. We all did gymnastics, right, when we were kids, when we were little, and when we moved to Charlotte, you know, I you said you wanted to take dance, and I was like, well, I want to take it too, you know. And there's so many things that I have been inspired by you throughout my life. And, like most siblings, I think there are periods of time where you're closer and you're than others. But I think it's been so amazing because I feel like, junior high and high school, it's like, we were just trying to figure out who we were in like our, you know, hormones and all that stuff, and living together in the same room and having different experiences. We were 4 years apart. 4 years apart with middle school and high school is like, 20 as
It's
an
a big,
adult,
it can be a big
right?
difference, and
It's a big difference. And although we love each other, and we've always been very close, and I do feel like, we've always been very close. I really feel like when we got into our 20s is where our relationship really blossomed in
Mhm,
the most beautiful way. And I think we just both had incredible life experiences that were different, and yet there was so many similarities to the things that we experienced along the way. And even today, the things that we experience along the way. And it's been really amazing. And I feel like even though we live so far apart, that we're closer than we've ever been.
mhm.
And I know that if I call you, you're going to pick up the phone, just like, I'm going to do the same thing, you know, and, I just love you.
I know, I love you too, and this is why this is so super sweet to do this with you because we've never I don't think we've even talked about a lot of things. So this
Mhm.
is for me, this is interesting because I'm hearing things that I've never heard you say. Like I really didn't know that I inspired you to dance, and
Well, yeah.
yet, and here's the thing about my sister. So we're gonna talk about your acting here a little bit. Um, but Juliana was I think you were I don't know if you were well you were 4 years younger, so I think I was
Mhm.
15 at the time and I'll never forget, and it's so bad, y'all. I'm not bragging about this. So this is not one of my shining moments, but I used to make her mad on purpose. Like it was
On
fun to
purpose.
watch because there was a dramatic response. And I'm talking about like full on like slamming of doors and marching through the house and throwing herself on the bed. Like it was Academy Award winning. And I knew it. I remember telling my mom in the kitchen, we're in the kitchen dinner one night, and I think I don't remember. I don't know what I did to make you mad at. Maybe I'd taken clothes I wasn't supposed to. I don't know. I did something, and I was like, "Mom, watch this." And Mom's like, Mom, the whole time is all the time like, "Oh my gosh, like
Oh,
let me,
honey.
yeah,
Oh,
oh honey." And I'm like, "No, Mom, watch. Like this is like we're talking Academy Award winning. Get ready. It's getting ready to happen." Juliana, no lie, like comes through, slamming doors, marching to the house, like going through a whole. It's like a scene, like somebody wrote a scene. And at that point, I knew I was like, "There's something. Like she's got something." And sure enough, she goes to college and gets into theater, and then it's like it all of that made sense. All of that came together. So I want to jump into that because you did something that inspired me. Like I loved watching you take stage, and I love it when you sing, and you are so freaking funny. Like, you are
Mhm.
freaking funny. So I want you to talk a little bit about that because you have such good comedic timing and you are so good on stage. Like, it's hilarious. Like, she's hilarious. She's hilarious.
Oh,
So yeah, so
oh,
you
stop,
inspire me.
stop,
So I'm gonna
stop.
I'm gonna I'm gonna pass it back
I
to you about being an actor and kind of what that road has been. What and you, I mean, because you may go back to it at some point, but for right now, you're in something else, and we'll get to that. But like, what has your experience been? Because you danced, you choreographed, you sang, you know all these things. So take it away.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's something that, like, I don't think I knew what it was that I wanted when, it's like as a kid, you're kind of like identifying the things that you like. And, I, um, I first even felt connected to theater when we used to rent MGM movie musicals. And remember, we had that family friend who had like a whole library of them,
Yes.
and she would let us borrow them. And I think she had every MGM movie musical that ever existed.
Okay, stop right there. What's your favorite? Do you have
Oh
a favorite?
God. I mean, I know the
Can we
list
talk
is so
about
long.
Nancy Goes to Rio and how many times I made you watch
I mean,
that?
I know. It's like I was gonna say Nancy Goes to Rio in 2 weeks with love.
Right. How many times do we watch that? We probably know it backward, forward,
I
upward,
mean,
and
I think
down.
we broke the tape.
Yeah, the VHS.
We did. I think we broke the VHS. Um yeah, but it really, I mean, I think that was the first time where I was like, those people are singing and dancing on stage, but in a really, they were telling stories, like the songs they were doing and the numbers they were doing, everything was storytelling. And not just through their voices, but with their movement and the scenery and the costumes and the lighting, like everything was coming together to like tell this story in just like one musical number. And I was so enthralled by that. And then also the movies just in general, just the storytelling with song and dance. And it was just something that resonated with me as a kid. And, you know, we started dancing, and obviously we both had a natural gift for it. And it was something I really enjoyed doing. What I didn't really know that I could do until I was in high school was sing. And that the only reason I started singing is because Tony from church was going to be directing a musical at the church, and she approached me and she said, "I want you to play the lead singing role in this show." And I was like, I I can't do that. And she was like, "Yes, you can." And I was like, "I don't sing." And she was like, "Yes, you do." And I was like, "How, what?" And I went and rehearsed with her one day. I was in tears. I was like, "Tony, I can't do this." She was like, "You absolutely can." And she worked with me. And then sure enough, I did. And then by the end of it, I was hooked. I was like, I just had never had that experience of like being on stage. And I mean, just there's nothing like, and I know you know this feeling, there's nothing like the energy that you get from what you're giving to an audience. And when you lock in with an audience and they're locked into you, it's the most empowering experience, whether you're saying your own words or someone else's. It's so incredibly powerful. And it was something that I felt as a ninth grader in high school. It was something I felt, and it just like lit something in me. We went to a Christian school that was very, very small. We did not have a theater department.
Very small. Can we just talk about that for a second? I
Let's
graduated with
tell you how
eight
many people.
eight
Yeah,
people. Eight people graduating
there you
class.
go.
Thank you very much.
15, baby, 15. And one of them was my brother. Um, but we went to a really small Christian school, and we didn't have a theater department. We had a secretary that was willing and wanted to put on productions so that we could have that experience. And so I got to be a part of a couple of different musicals in high school. And then mom and dad, they went to Lees McRae College in the mountains in Banner Elk, North Carolina. And they went up there to visit, and they talked with the head of the dance department there, and they came home, and I was a junior, and they said, "We know where you're supposed to go." And I was like, "I'm not going to the same school as you. Why would I do that? Like, I don't want to go to the same school as you." And they're like, "No, no, no. They have a theater department." And so we went up. I auditioned. Oh my God. At the time, I'm like, I look back on, I wore like the dumbest looking 90s jeans. I wore like a yellow top from like the Limited that had no personality. I think I tied my hair up in a bun, and I wore like chunky, can't remember. I can't even believe I remember this outfit. I wore like chunky black Mary Jane shoes. Like, I was not audition ready. I was like some girl that just hopped off the bus, you know, going to class. And I went and I auditioned and I sang on my own from Les Mis, and they gave me a scholarship. They thought I had a really good voice and that they saw something in me. So, long story short, I went to Lees McRae, got a degree in musical theater. And then when I graduated, I was like, I don't think I want to do anything with this. That lasted about a year before I auditioned for something else. And then really my life ended up in Colorado, and out there is really where I found my thing with it. And I got involved with a theater out there that at the time was very, very small. Now they've expanded and they're amazing, and they've built a huge, beautiful facility. And but at the time it was this tiny little 70 seat theater. And I came in, and you know, immediately I was just doing 3 or 4 shows a year with them. And it started out as a performer, and then, you know, he asked me once if I wanted to choreograph a show, and I was like, that sounds like fun. And so then I did that, and I was like, wait, I'm really good at this, And so from there, it just kind of started cycling. I started to become the go-to choreographer there for a number of years. They brought me back over the years. Even when I'm not there, they'll fly me in, and I'll choreograph a show. And more than anything, I love that no matter whether I'm doing it full time or I'm not doing it at all, that I'm an artist. And I think that's the part that I feel like, because of my experiences and because of allowing that piece of me, that I see life in a different way. I approach experiences in a unique way because of what I did for 20 years. And it was 20 years. 20 years I was doing that really, really kind of like full time. And yeah, I mean, I love it. I love it. But it's a very hard life to sustain in terms of, you know, being away all the time and not really being able to put roots down. And so that's really kind of the number one reason that things sort of shifted. And also I think I was just ready to kind of try something new.
And I love that because I think there's so much to be said about as not just women, but just as humans. Like, I think it's important to go through seasons, allow yourself to change and grow and evolve and take from, the things that you've done beforehand. And I believe everyone has a creative side. I think everybody has the ability to be creative in some way, and it may just come out in a different form.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what I love so much about what you're doing now and how you've pivoted. And you're now in business. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think that that has been even a change for us because it's so usually it's been very different. Like, I'm in, like Daniel used to always say, well, Julie and I got the, talent, the art, and then in the dancing and the singing, and Celia, you've got good work ethic. I'm like, thanks, Daniel. I feel so much better about myself. But I say that to say that, now our conversations are around sales and business and deals, and you're doing training and sales managing, and now you're doing a podcast for your work, and I do a podcast on
Yeah.
my own, so we shared that creative bond in
Yeah.
common, which is why this is so fun. But let's talk about that pivot and stepping into business, and how you've brought the creative side to what you do.
I love that you use the word pivot because it's a word that's so prominent in the business that I'm in. I don't know if it's as prominent in your sales world, but it's used in the companies that I've worked for. Everybody says it like all the time. It's time to pivot. We're going to pivot, pivot, pivot. And you and I understand the physical breakdown of a pivot, the dance move.
Hmm.
It's it's literally facing one direction and turning completely the other direction, right? And um to say that like all of a sudden I just decided I was going to do sales, it didn't really happen that way. As a theater artist, even full time, you have to have a survival job, unless you're the 1%, of the world, the theater actors out there that are, have long standing Broadway contracts and, movies and all those things. You have a survival job. And so I always, always, always have had a side survival job, from mortgage loan processing to, executive assistant. And about 7 years ago, I fell into an opportunity with a startup that I was doing theater full time down here in Florida. And I found this opportunity on Upwork, which is this, website where you can go and offer your skills and services, and people can hire you for like part time. And this guy found me, and he was starting a company, and he said, I just need somebody to just like help me with just day to day tasks. I called myself like, it was like a his girl Friday kind of, role. See, I have to give my jobs like role titles. It
I was
can't
gonna
just be
say,
like I was an
that sounds
assistant. I
like
was like
so
his girl
risky and
Friday.
risque.
Right?
Like, what?
His girl Friday is a movie from like with Cary Grant and oh god, I can't think of her name. This is terrible. I can't think of her name. Anyways, this is an amazing movie. Um and so anyways, that I took this job, and I started out just doing like, whatever he needed. Well, very quickly, I ended up on the phone calling companies to negotiate like special benefits for members of these two executive organizations. And I remember the first phone call I made, it took me 30 minutes to get the guts up to make the call because I was so nervous. And then I did it, and I was like, oh, that was easy. And then I started doing it, and I started negotiating these benefits, and I was getting really good at it. Joe would hear me on the phone, and he'd be like, oh my God, you've got to go into sales. I was like, I don't even know what that means. Like, what does it even mean? I don't know. I didn't go to school for sales. I don't know how to do it. He's like, well, you're doing it. And the job ended up growing. Actually became an account manager. I started managing uh, client accounts. We ended up expanding to retreat planning, executive retreats, but I was like building out the team of retreat uh, planners, and I was also pitching customers on taking the service. So I was doing all this sales. I was literally the lead salesperson for this company, and it was really great. I mean, I've really discovered in that job that I could do that, and I actually really liked it. And the other part that I really liked was managing people. And I really liked building that team, and I really liked, coaching them on how to pitch and writing the script. And so when that job, when I got to a point, and it was like, you know what, I'm ready to like do something different. And I could feel that change coming. The company started to kind of move in a different direction. And so I was like, you know what? I know what I want to do. I want to go into the SaaS industry. I want to go into software because this is where everything is happening, right? You can see it. It's all the really amazing sales jobs are in the SaaS industry, and a lot of people I knew were kind of moving in that direction. So I started to apply, and I found a job located in St. Pete, and this was in 2020. So I got this job in April 2020. I started out as a sales development representative, because I thought, I want to kind of start at the ground because like, I want to know how this position, like, this is the basis for where everything starts. So, and I was only in that role for 2 months, and then I became a manager because of my experience, and very quickly had a team of 8 to 10 salespeople, and then we and it was amazing. I mean, I just found a real excitement for it, and then 3 years later, 4 years later, almost, here I am, you know, building out a brand new team for a brand new company. And I've just found that, like, that's really what, drives me. What I love about it is, helping people exceed their own expectations. Getting to be a part of that is really exciting for me. And um, I love process, and I love, the funniest thing is, like, I came from a world where, scripts and pitch and tone were all things that I was doing all the time with being an actor, right? You're thinking about, how does the tone of my voice sound? How is the pitch of my voice when I'm singing? What, what is the script? I'm memorizing the script. Sometimes you're writing a script, and I'm doing all of those things in sales. So it's very funny that, there are all these things that I did. And one of the things that when I've been in interviews for positions in the past, and they say, tell me about an experience that you've had in your life that unrelated to sales that makes you a good manager. And I say, you know, I was a director and a choreographer for a number of years, and try taking 15 dancers and making them all look the same within 2 weeks and opening night ready, you know, because it's the truth. It's the truth. It's the same skills. It's the same people skills. Everybody has different skill set. Everybody has a different experience they're coming from. And so it takes all the same skills in coaching dancers or actors as it does salespeople. So that was a long story long.
But I love that. See, this is what's so unique about it because I'm in sales. So I'm in the actual trenches of the sales where you're actually managing. So you'd be like managing me, which is going
Yeah.
to be a wild card.
Which is,
So, I mean, let's
I'll
just be
take a
honest
wild card any day. I will take a wild card any day.
because I don't do it the same. I have my own way.
No,
But
no.
what I appreciate is it's very true. Everything that you learned in through acting and stage, all the things that you talked about, down to like using the word pivot and creating a visual. You're looking at every single person on your team as if they're playing a role in this full production,
Mhm,
basically. And that is
mhm.
such a unique, just a unique way to see it. And it really gives me a visual about, like, even in my own role as a salesperson with Ready Fitness, like, oh wow, that just opened up a different way for me to even look at what I do every day for a living and the team that I'm a part of, and like what role do I play in that team. So that's really, I mean, that's really fascinating. You have really kind of helped me see things a little different. And on that track, I wanted to see if you had 3 tips you could share when it comes to managing teams, like 3 things that you do, because I think you bring fun to it, that's probably a little bit different too. So give us 3 tips. What 3 tips do you have for managing sales
Yeah,
teams?
for sure. Well, sort of piggybacking off of what you just talked about, uh, understanding your role as part of the team. And, as salespeople, it's really easy to be so focused on your own individual self, right? Uh, as a manager, you're thinking about 8, 10, 3, 4, 8, 10, 15, however, whatever size team you have, you're thinking about the team. But you also have to be thinking about yourself because the team affects your money, right? Um, so I'll get into the fun that I have with my team in just a minute. But one thing that I've learned, I am not a numbers person by nature. I always was like, I will write the heck out of that paper. Don't make me do math. And now I'm in sales.
I'm the same way.
I
I'm not
know.
paying attention. Like, I'm not motivated. Y'all, this is sad. I'm motivated now, But for the longest time, I wasn't motivated by numbers. Now I'm driven by it because like I see my teammates going and I'm like, no way he's not going to beat
Yes.
me. Like
Yes.
one teammate and I go back and forth all the time. So yeah, I'm motivated now, but at most of my grown up years, I was not motivated by numbers. So we share that.
Yes. And so becoming a manager of a sales team has been really interesting for me because like I was just saying that as a manager, you're responsible for helping and supporting and making sure these people are hitting their numbers. And I tell my team members all the time, know your numbers. You better know your numbers. If the CEO walks up to you and asks you how many demos you have this month, you better know how many you have. Don't come and ask me. You need to know your numbers. But at the same time, I have to know my numbers because if the CEO comes up to me and says, how are your numbers this month? I need to know how many demos my team has. But the other side of that is not only knowing your numbers, but own your numbers. If you don't own your numbers, and you don't put a goal on the other side of those numbers for yourself, and maybe that is competition. Maybe that is so you can beat the person next to you. Maybe it's because you want to buy a new car and you've got a picture of it hanging on your cubicle or your closet door, whatever, wherever you're working. Like whatever it is, know your numbers because if you're focused on that and you have that as a driving factor for yourself, you're going to be more successful. If you don't pay attention to your numbers at all, it's you're selling yourself short. So that's one thing as a manager because you're telling your team members this all the time, but you too, if you own that, you're going to drive your team better. Now, that's typical sales talk, right? That's like it's all about numbers. On the flip side of that, every individual on a team is a person with life experiences, good and bad. And I have found that the best way to lead a team and to win their trust is by leading with empathy. Now you have to know sometimes they're going to try to pull the wool, right? Sometimes. And I have let them, but you start to learn the signs. But if you lead with empathy and you build that trust, you're going to have a stronger foundation for being able to guide them when they're stuck and helping them get out. And that's the third part that I really like to talk about. And that is, you said this before, and I love that you said it because it's just so, as a manager, you have to be willing to get in the trenches. You can't just say, why aren't you hitting your numbers? Go hit your numbers. Go hit your numbers. You can't always just be dictating and saying, you have to do this. You have to do this. No, when somebody's not getting there, there is a reason why. And it is your job. It is my job as a manager to sit down with them, to dig in, get in the trenches with them, listen to their calls, read their emails, look at everything that they're doing. Look at, in my world, it's sales development representatives. These guys are cold calling all day long. It's looking at their dial numbers, their activity, it's digging in, it's taking the time to invest. And then beyond all of that, it's investing in them as people and understanding, if they're willing to share, what maybe is going on that could be affecting it as well, and how can I help you there. So those are the three things that I really primarily hold on to. Now, COVID, I'm going to give you a fourth one because this is where the fun comes in. COVID has changed everything, right? We all know this. It's changed the complete landscape of how we do everything. And in a time that, the SaaS industry, the software industry was growing really, really fast, everybody went home. And then you were tasked as a manager with keeping people engaged on Zoom calls after cold calling for 4 or 5 hours. Let's get on a computer and stare at each other. Talk about your numbers. Like there's no human contact. So I've gotten really good. And this is the funny thing about me is I hate games. Like
Games. You hate
I I hate them. When I was in college, I'm not kidding, when I was in college, my friends loved game night. And I was like, ugh, I hate game night. Like, I will play one round of one game, and that is all you get. The rest of the time, I'm sitting on the sidelines and I'm going to cheer you on.
I
Come
love
on,
game night.
Juliana. I
That's
know
the
you
difference.
do.
I love game night. Go ahead.
So, being a manager of a bunch of 20 something salespeople who all love games, and trivia is now like everywhere, I have had to find the joy in creating fun. So, I do trivia sometimes. There is this wonderful online website called thewheelofnames.com. If you've never used it, that's your
I'm so gonna
that's
use
my
it now.
that's
I'm
my
so gonna
piece of
use it.
advice. It is a wheel that looks like the Wheel of Fortune wheel, and you can fill it out with whatever information on it. You can choose a song, you can put all their names on it and spin it. Whose ever name it lands on, they win. You can turn it, do with it whatever you want, but it's really fun, and it's become my thing that I do with my teams, and they love it. And we have trivia,
Didn't you do
and we
Friends? Didn't you do Friends trivia?
well, Joe and I did Friends trivia.
Okay, I couldn't remember who did Friends trivia because that was
No,
so fun. I was like, that would be so
well,
much fun.
I mean, please, you and I would kill Friends trivia together. This is the best part. Joe went to trivia a couple months ago, and it was Friends trivia, and I wasn't there. And he called me to be like, "Hey,
What's
there's this question. What's the answer?" And I was like, "Ugh, Monica." And he was like, "Yes," and they won.
That's awesome. Oh my gosh. Well, I love
So
the fact that you bring fun. Like, I think that's so important, and I think that's just another way you can reflect on your 20 years prior of being an actor and being on stage. I mean, because you have fun. Like you have fun,
yeah.
even though it's hard work.
Well,
You still find ways to have fun with your crew.
yeah. Well, and I feel like being in sales is being an actor,
It is.
and I feel like being a manager a lot is being an actor because you know sometimes you have to act like everything is fine when
But it's not.
it's not.
Well, I love this so much. I think you and I've teased about this, but I think we're gonna have to do it. I think we're gonna have to do Sales Sisters podcast, some
I'm
episodes.
telling you, I think we
Yeah.
would have so many things, and I'm telling you, if we could make it happen, our opening song will have to be
This
"Sail Sister, Soul Sister." I don't know what the rest of the words are after that, but I
you'll have to
every time
write it. You'll have to write it.
we'll write a little parody
I
before.
love it. Yes, I totally think we should. Like I think there's total space for that, and the fact that we just have so much fun together, but the fact that we can talk about sales, like it's just really neat to be able to talk to you about that stuff and to
Oh man,
share
and you've
the
been such
challenges.
we talk about inspiration too. You've been such an inspiration to me in that way because, I watched you pound the pavement in a different way than I was all those years. And you've been so successful at it. And, being able to see that, it really is what inspired me to really move towards it because it's like, oh man, if Celia can do this and she's so successful, maybe I can too, you know?
Well, I love that, and I love that we share so much in common. Everything from growing up and the love for dance and musicals, and then to be able to share in business too, and be women that have blazed our own path and each went our own way, but yet come back together and are able to share experiences and even more experiences as we get older. It's just really unique and very special. And I'm
Yeah.
this is such a fun moment to be able
I
to talk about
know it's
all
really
this. And
fun.
then
We're like,
everybody gets to listen to us banter, about the days, which I cannot let you go without talking about my absolute favorite performance, hands down. And you have one article of clothing that I will forever remember you for, and that is Sheer Madness, Barbara Jean.
oh my God. And see, that's the best part is Barbara Jean. I mean, that's a show that's been playing, you know, in venues across the world for like almost 40 years, maybe over 40 years now. Eh, Charlotte is the only place that that character is called Barbara Jean because we were in Charlotte performing that at the Blumenthal. And Everywhere else, she's Barbara. She's just Barbara. But no, in North Carolina, she had to be Barbara Jean. Yeah.
She did have to be Barbie, and she wore leopard pants.
She did. And there are photos on the internet, and now I feel a little uncomfortable about it.
Well, that's
Not
been my
gonna lie.
absolute. I watched that
Everybody
show.
listening.
I know. I watched that show so many times. Sheer
Yeah.
Madness.
Sheer
Um,
madness. Actually, and that's how Joe and I met.
yes, and he's an actor too, and that's so awesome. Like
Yeah.
that's what's unique.
That's how
Um,
we met. Yeah.
yeah, the sheer madness. I
Yeah.
remember seeing you guys in the show there, and all the times I would see you when you were in Charlotte. Like it was just so fun to be a part of that, and then now to be a part of your life with what you're doing with sales, and to be able to relate and chat
Yeah.
about everything we have. Like it's so awesome.
I know. I know. It's really fun. We could
So
keep
give
going.
me a song, a quote. Do you lean into for motivation or
L-
inspiration?
Lately, the quote that I heard recently, and I've been saying it to myself almost every day, is everything is always working out for me.
Oh, I like that.
Um,
I like that a lot.
I think it's really easy to focus on what's not working or what you don't have or what's really frustrating about whatever situation you're in. And I've gotten to this place recently that it's like I'm realizing and I've come to understand that when I focus on those things, that's what I'm going to get back. You know, that's where my energy is going, right? If I'm focused on the negative, then I'm going to get the negative back because that's where my focus is and that's where my energy is. And so I've been doing a lot of practice in terms of waking up in the morning and meditating and writing in my journal and writing in my journal the things that I'm appreciative for and specifically targeting maybe the situation that I'm in that's frustrating and then but targeting and saying what's great about the situation that I'm in, right? Whatever that situation is. Um, and it's really made a huge difference in how I approach my days and how I feel throughout the day. I've become very sensitive in terms of like how I feel. Like if something feels bad, I don't want to feel that way. So I change my thoughts. I stop focusing on it. I focus on positive things and what's good. And that's been such a huge thing. And that statement, everything is always working out for me. It just feels very good, to like everything's always working out for me, no matter how frustrating or challenging or whatever. Everything always works out, you know. And so that's something that I've been leaning into lately. And yeah, it's been good. It's been really good.
Yeah, I love that. I think, you know, I was even talking to somebody yesterday because I'm dealing with stress in the past because of my personality as part of it. I think I'm very sensitive and I get very emotional and I take everything personal. And even in my job, like if I have a client, if something doesn't happen perfect or we have something disrupt and just to give you insight, I'm a project manager. So I'm managing. So as of right now, I have 26 new construction projects that I am managing while I'm selling. So I've got all these, I'm working with development team and construction team and install team. And there's all these different things. And so being in that environment when I first started was really hard, and I would get really upset, and there's still moments that I have that, but I'm really trying to gain perspective in that. Look, stuff's going to happen, things aren't going to go perfect, it's not what happens to you, it's really how you handle it. And
Mhm.
I've got to find a way to manage the emotional side of it, or take the emotional side out of it and just flow with
Mhm.
it. And just like
Mhm.
you said, lean into it. Doesn't matter what happens, it's going to work out,
Yeah.
because I'm just going to have the faith for that, but also the belief in that I'm doing my best and trying my best. So I just believe that so that it will, like, if I just lean into that and get peaceful when things start to like go crazy, whether it's
Yeah.
emails or phone messages or text messages, because I would get a message and I would go spiral, like it could just ruin my day.
Yeah.
And I can't, I don't have time to do that. So really leaning into that. So I think it's really, really important. And I appreciate you sharing that. And I'm even
Yeah.
now, I got a coloring book. So I have a coloring book and crayons. And so what I'm doing now is like when I'm determined that when I find those stressful moments, that I take a second and color, because when I color, it takes my mind off of everything else.
And see, that's so amazing. I love that because it's a form of meditation. I was talking to my really good friend who does who's well versed in meditation, and I was saying to her, I have a really hard time just like sitting still and closing my eyes and my brain not going like 100 miles an hour. Like I have a really hard time turning my brain off. And I was telling her about this experience I had where I sat on my back porch and I was having a hard time with that. And then all of a sudden I closed my eyes and it was a Saturday morning and I started to like focus on the sound of the birds. I started to like in my mind notice every sound I heard, every different car that I heard and every bird and the sound in the trees. I let my mind sort of focus on those things. And it went on for like 10 minutes. And then when I was done, I was like, I felt so at peace. And I said to her, I said, I know it wasn't meditation. She was like, that was meditation. She said, that was mindfulness. That was mindfulness. And so what you're doing with your coloring book, and I remember you telling me this because I went and got a coloring book after you. See, there's a little sister wants to do what big sister's doing. I went and got a coloring book. And it's taking that mindful moment to reset. I tell my team that all the time. Listen, if you're having a hard day and you're just grinding and grinding and you're not getting anywhere, stand up, walk away, go get a tea. You know what I mean? Go outside, take a breather, walk your dog, do something to shift your energy so that you can come back and do what you need to. I think that one of the things that I can relate to is that sort of reactor, right? And a reaction response. It's so easy to react to things. And that's something that I got in the habit of for a long time. In fact, the story you told at the beginning about your sister and her drama through the house, that was reacting. That was reacting. And that was a skill that became a habit in many areas of my life. And that's the other thing that like in all of this sort of everything is always working out for me mindfulness state that I'm been practicing and trying to live in, it's changed the way I respond rather than react. So much better to respond because responding means you've taken a beat, you've taken a moment to consider what you're going to say and what you're going to do, whereas reacting is like in the moment, right?
And nothing comes good of it. Like
No.
the reaction part is just, that's just been something I've had to work on, because I used to
Mhm.
fly off the handle, freak out, cry, like have a meltdown, like,
It's
and
emotionally driven.
yeah, and I want to really be, if you want, especially in business, being taken seriously and being a businesswoman, like that's been one area for me that was weak for a really long time. And by no means have I like conquered it. I mean, but
Right.
I know for me that I'm in a much better space, just like you're saying, because I am learning to take a beat, uh and that is really important.
Yeah. I know I'm talking like I'm super aligned and that I live my daily life very peaceful and meditative. I mean, I'm in sales, so, you know,
No, but I think there's
these are
different.
the practices that
Right.
I'm
These
finding
are
I'm finding make a difference.
right. And I think it's so important to share. And I think women need
Yeah.
to know, like, you're not alone. Like, this is the stuff we're dealing with. And that's what I love about podcasting, is like, and about especially specifically like these kinds of moments, because this is real stuff. And it
Yeah.
doesn't mean that we have it down to a science. These are just things that we're trying to help ourselves get better and become better.
Yeah. And
So
I think I one thing I just want to say really quick because I've been watching from afar your journey with be amazing, right? I've been a part of it. I've
Yes,
seen
she was the MC with me. Like she put in so much work with me in 2018, and I am so grateful because my sister flew in. She had my back. I had no idea what I was doing. No idea. It was a huge
it was
undertaking,
it was a huge undertaking, but it worked out because everything is always working out for you,
right?
Celia,
Because we're leaning into it.
because we're leaning into it. But no, it worked out and it was a really amazing experience, but amazing. But beyond that, watching the journey that you've made with this podcast from afar and now being here, the thing that I saw your post on LinkedIn for the event, in March, and I'm so excited about that because it's so amazing. But I uh the thing I love that you're doing, and it resonates with me more now, and I'll tell you why. Because when I was doing theater for so long, being a woman in theater is like, there are other things you have to deal with being a woman on stage, and that are, you just figure out how to manage them. But being a woman in corporate America or in business is a different experience. And in sales, it is a boys club. And I don't mean that any other way, except that it quite often feels that way as a woman. It's a very male driven industry. And over the last couple of months specifically, I have been meeting the most amazing women in sales, and specifically in sales development, which is the org that I'm in the piece of the sales function that I am in, that have these incredible voices. And you know watching you promote and give voices to so many women is inspiring in me to do the same thing. And I think that, like, I just think it's really amazing what you're doing. I'm just going to keep saying it's so correct. The name is so correct.
So amazing.
I
Yeah,
may have made fun of it at one point,
I
at
think
the
you did.
beginning.
I think
I'm
everybody
pretty sure I
has
was
at
like,
some
okay,
point.
be amazing. No, it's like so correct with the butterfly and
I know.
it's
Thank you. It's so my heart, and just the fact of like this podcast is just like I've had more fun meeting other women do in different parts of the world, and being able to listen to their story and see how they've overcome challenge and things they faced. And like I always walk away with takeaways. Like I always walk away and like it helps me grow as a person. And I've had my experiences. I'm in the male dominated sales industry. I mean, fitness equipment is male
right.
dominated for sure. It's a good old boys club. I've
Mhm.
had to build out my spot, and it's taken me a long time to get where I am with it and to have a name for myself. I actually got one of the nicest compliments I think I've been given from a competitor, and it came through one of the manufacturers, and it was just
Mhm.
like he called me. This manufacturer called me, and he's like, "Hey, I just want to tell you thank you for your business, but he's like, I want to tell you something else." I was like, "What is it?" And he's like, "Well, he's like, your competitor spoke highly of you." And I was like, "Huh?" Because that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And it's somebody that's owned a company for a long time. I've never even met the owner, but the owner's the one that said, because he asked them about competition and all that, and they're like, "No, Seal is like, she's the real deal. She's like does an awesome job. She's so kind," and all these nice things. And I was just kind of like, wow, that's pretty big,
That's
because
amazing.
the guys don't always tell you that, you know.
Mm-mm.
So it's been a journey, and Be Amazing's been a journey. And uh, I thank you because you've supported me from afar. You've supported me in person. You've always been there for me when I've had moments of like, everything from when I was a single mom trying to fight my way through to find, my place and the different jobs I've had. And but you're like consistent as my sister, and I'm so forever grateful and have such gratitude for you and such love for you. And I
Well,
love that I
it
can
goes
share
both
that
ways.
publicly and say,
Yeah,
like, I love
I
my
know.
sister.
That's really cool. Well, it
But
goes both ways. I mean, you've been there for me in extraordinary ways, and unconditional. And, I think that we're very fortunate to have each other, you
Absolutely.
know?
That's it's a unique thing, and I'm super grateful for it. I do
Thank
have
you.
one more thing I want to ask you before I let you go. Do you have is there anything else that it's on your heart that you want to share that, out of all the things we've talked about, and, is there anything else? Is there, that you would like to share?
Um, I think the biggest thing I wanted to talk about, and I kind of, you know, started on it, was really just um the what I've been learning lately. And I think so. No. I mean, I guess that's my answer. I feel like maybe I've said everything I need to say.
I was waiting for some big mic drop. No,
I
I
know. And
love
I'm like,
where's our
I
mic drop
got
moment?
nothing.
No, I love that. So here's the thing. Now, Juliana is not huge on social media because she's not on it all
No,
the
I'm
time.
trying to get better. I'm
I
trying to
know.
get better.
But I need you to where do you want people to connect with you? So if they want to connect with you, they want to talk more about, sales, or heck, they might have questions for you about
LinkedIn.
acting or singing. Where can
You
they
can
find you?
you can find me on LinkedIn. My name is Juliana Ditmyer. You can find me on Instagram. I'm just_Juliana.
Yes, you are just.
The woman sitting across from me on this computer screen gave me that name.
Only because you would say it all the time growing up. I am just Juliana.
Because you always called me Juliana something. It was
Oh,
always
I know we always added names.
Juliana Banana
I
or
know.
Juliana whatever. And I'm like, it's
And
just Juliana.
I
You're like,
love that that's your
but
Instagram.
here's the best part. You know how I knew that Joe was the one? He tells this is for another podcast, but he tells this fantastic story about how he saved a dog's life.
Mhm.
And the first time I heard it, I was sitting at a table with, a bunch of theater people, and every person at the table was swooning at the end of this story, including me. And we hadn't even started seeing each other yet. I was just like this story is ridiculous. And then this woman is like, thank you so. There's the dog that he saved. The woman, comes up to him after. She's like, thank you so much for saving our dog. You have no idea. And she goes on and on. And she's like, you're our hero. And he goes, I'm no hero. I'm just Joe.
That's your match made in heaven. Match made in heaven.
I'm just Joe.
That's the best. This has been such a joy.
Yeah.
Okay, so we will have to do another episode. You know that. And it
Yeah,
will
we'll
be
have to do
Sales
another one.
Sisters. Yeah. We'll be
We'll
Sales
do another
Sisters.
one that's
It'll be so
a
fun.
little more.
Well, I love you
Yeah,
much.
it's really fun. I love you
We'll talk
so
again
much.
soon.
Okay. Thanks for having me.
Yes. Thank you for joining me today. If you like the podcast, please like and share this with other women in your life. You can find out more about SweatNet on sweatnet.com or follow them on Instagram at SweatNet and SweatNet Charlotte. You can follow me personally on Instagram at Cel Smart. Stay tuned for the next episode of the SweatNet Be Amazing podcast.